Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 6 of the Chris Knott Insurance UK Touring Car Championship. We are here at Brands Hatch in the old school Alfa 75 this time round. You may notice a couple of changes in the stream tonight. Apologies for the reduction in graphical quality, and the graphics aren't quite as pretty tonight. I'm on a different system this time round, so we see Barry Clayton ending his stint there. He put in a very nice shift to go P5. So yeah, we're on a different system tonight, and as such, I've just had a couple of little tweaks to make sure that we are all good to go. We're having just a couple of glitches, so I might take a break in about 5 minutes to try and get those mended. The camera and the timing system aren't quite playing ball with each other, but I can tell you it's currently Alan Matthews on pole position as we see Greg Young and Guy Swarbrick look to have had a fairly substantial accident actually at some point on track, so that'll be another reset for them in this qualifying session. But it's Alan Matthews currently on pole. He put in a very nice lap a few moments ago with a 141.4 running the soft tyres. But Andrew Whitehead, who now is actually on our timing system, it wasn't for a little while, it is close behind with 141.5. He set a purple sector 2 on that previous attempt, so he's certainly feeling pretty pacey. And then we have, we'll go down to Greg Young actually in P4. Interestingly, he is running very nicely indeed, taking personal bests at the moment, so we'll stay on board with him for the end of this lap. But he's 142.7, he's currently on the mediums as he heads down into Sector 3 towards the end. So a very nice lap from him there. Pardon me, that's not Sector 3 at all, that's just a bit of lag on the timing system. I will get that fixed. We are heading through Surtees as we speak, getting ready to head down to the Pilgrim's Drop. Pilgrim's Drop, of course, leading into Hawthorne, that one of a couple of heavy braking zones on this circuit, which is a great overtaking opportunity. Of course, the other being Druids. I think another great opportunity as well, if you're feeling brave, is Paddock Hill Bend. If you try your luck, if you trust your competitor enough, you can go side by side through there. But these cars are by no means easy to master. The Alfa 75 Turbo, proper old school touring car these are, and they can bite back if you treat them unfairly. As we see the back end of Greg Young's car just stepping out a little bit there as we head into the halfway point in this session. Currently we have Alan Matthews, our pole sitter, on another lap attempt, although there's been 2 yellow sectors so far, so it doesn't look like there is much room for improvement in this lap. And of course he'll be wanting to improve that. He won't be feeling entirely comfortable, only a tenth ahead of his competition. And then we have guys, as we see him going off there at the end of this lap, so he's abandoning this attempt. We'll go on board with Guy Swarbrick, currently running P8 as he crosses the line to improve his time there. He goes a 144.7, running the medium tyres as well is Guy Swarbrick. So this could be maybe trying to extend their qualifying stints to get a few extra laps in the constrained time that we have, but it could also be maybe drivers trying to learn the medium tyre a little bit better, feeling like that soft isn't going to be good enough for the race. We've seen a few times in the Touring Car Championship so far that the soft will do you fairly well right up until the end point in the race. Will kind of fall off a cliff edge, so maybe there's something that drivers are trying to preempt here in these cars tonight, so that'll be one to watch out for in the race. This guy is currently, Andrew Whitehead is on another fastest lap attempt. He went personal best in Sector 1, but Sector 2 wasn't quite there, although was quicker than Alan Matthews, so still could be on for an important lap here for Andrew Whitehead. As we see the back end just squirreling there, car spitting flames into every corner. Proper old school turbo engine powering these cars here. It's apparently a 1.8, but according to the game's audio, I doubt that. But it is in fact that 1.8 turbo engine that we all know and love. Beautifully styled car, the 75, as he heads round the clock curve. It's a 141.42 beat, and he just about misses out by 0.04 of a second. That'll be frustrating for Andrew, but he certainly has the pace. Can he get the move done, or rather, can he get that lap in the final 10 minutes of the session? Barry Clayton improves to go P3. That was a very nice lap that he snuck in there. I always love Barry Clayton's livery. It works well on every car, I think. And speaking of sneaking in, Greg Young running the medium tyres, now P3. Maybe the track's starting to get a little bit grippier underfoot for these drivers as we head into the final 10 minutes. We see Rob Whitney has unfortunately had an accident. That puts an end to that lap for him there. But yeah, Greg Young, 141.6 on those medium tyres. So he'll be one to watch out for in the race, I am sure. We are unfortunately missing Colin Knief tonight, owing to other commitments. So It'll be all important, actually, for Andrew in the championship battle. He's very close on the heels of Colin Knief as we head into the midway point in the Touring Car Championship. And if he gets a nice haul of points from this triple header, he will be pretty much neck and neck, if not slightly ahead of Colin in the championship standings, I believe. And yeah, it could be a very important race for Andrew indeed. As we see Will Harper, we haven't seen so many laps from Will Harper so far. He's currently running P6, on for a very nice lap at the moment as he heads round the Graham Hill curve and gets ready for Surtees. He has set 2 personal best sectors. Oh, once again, that's on the previous lap. I've got to keep remembering that the lag tends to come and update itself at the end of Sector 1. Yeah, Alan Matthews still holding on to that pole position. He's just actually set the best of the session so far in Sector 3 on his previous attempt, finding himself another couple of tenths. Oh no, that's Andrew Whitehead, pardon me there. Yeah, again, the timing system is something I will mend within the next couple of minutes. Didn't quite update there, as Alan Matthews deals with some traffic, but Andrew Whitehead has taken pole position back with an electric Sector 3 at the end there. Those soft tyres working well for him, then he gives himself about a 2/10 gap, 1/2 gap between him and Alan Matthews, so it's all to play for pole position as we enter the final stages of this qualifying session. I will be back in just a moment with a couple of technical fixes, I hope, but in the meantime, you will be able to hopefully enjoy some. I know you won't actually. I'll have to leave the session to try and mend the timing system here. So just give me a couple of seconds to get that sorted, and we'll be back for the battle for. Oh no, we won't actually, because Andrew Whitehead's just set a purple sector 2, so we might as well stick on board for him, see if he can build that gap to Alan Matthews as he heads down towards Stirling's. And down onto clearways. That long stretch must feel fairly long in these cars. They're not the powerful for their day for sure, but certainly not the peppiest of things these days, but still magnificent to watch heading around a circuit. It's a purple sector 2 for Andrew Whitehead. Can he improve and build that gap to Alan Matthews? He does ever so slightly, finds another 100th of a second there, but that could make all the difference in this fight for pole position between these two drivers as ongoing here. Although I say between the two drivers, Greg Young is only a couple of tenths off. If he can work those mediums really hard, he could be in the fight for pole position towards the end of the session. We never know. But I will join you shortly with hopefully a better working timing system towards the end of this qualifying session. I'll see you in just a second. And we're just having a couple of connection issues here, so I do apologise for that. But with about 15 seconds remaining in the session, we're on board with Andrew Whitehead, who is currently on pole position with a 140.8 running those soft tires. He put an absolute flyer towards the end of the session there. Cleared himself by about half a second from Greg Young. So that secures pole position for Andrew Whitehead for the moment. Although Greg Young is currently on another lap, it is not looking amazing for him. It's currently on a yellow sector 1, although that is a 31.4, about 2 seconds faster than Andrew on his previous attempt, although I do not believe that previous attempt was his best lap, and Greg Young abandons that lap there. So it was Andrew Whitehead sitting on pole, Greg Young in P2, Will Inglis P3, Will Harper P4, and Steve Knight P5, according to these times on here, but we see actually they will be slightly different when we get ready for race 1 of this triple header. So I'll see you in just a moment. And it is just under, or just over 30 seconds until lights out, and we can hear Greg Young flashing his headlights and honking his horn as well, I believe, sitting there in P2, trying to intimidate Andrew, I am sure, to mess up his start. Of course, that run down into Hawthorne is all important, not Hawthorne, Paddock Hill, is all important here on lap 1. It can quite easily be the end of your race if it goes a little bit awry. But 20 seconds to go now. It's interesting to note, actually, that Andrew and Greg have actually opted for the hard tyres in the end. Rob Whitney running the softs. So everyone is changing up their strategy for this race. It'll be interesting to see how it goes for everyone. As we hear the revs rising now, everyone getting ready to launch these Alfa 75 turbo engine cars. It's 6 red lights on the gantry. And we are away. A lot of wheel spin there for Andrew Whitehead. That allows Greg Young to gain substantially. They are near enough side by side as we get ready to head into the Paddock Hill Bend, although he's not quite able to get the move done on him yet. Andrew's been able to box him off, and there's a little train forming heading down the Paddock Hill Bend, now heading into Druids. Greg Young looks up the inside there, but Andrew is able to just about keep a big enough gap there as we see Will Inglis looking to try and make a move on Alan Matthews heading through Druids. Will Harper getting past Barry Clayton there as they are side by side heading into the Graham Hill Bend. Barry Clayton losing out substantially there, and that had brought Matt Daly into contention. Matt Daly wasn't able to qualify, actually. He is here with us now. There's a little bit of contact between them as they head through the Graham Hill Bend, but it's still Andrew Whitehead leading for the moment. This is when we might see differences in setup start to show their rear their ugly head for some of the drivers, shall we say. Obviously, this being an open setup championship, drivers carrying different amounts of downforce, and down Pilgrim's Drop we can see the delta in top speed really showing itself. Although Andrew Whitehead seems to be relatively safe at the moment, it's about 3/10 separating them. He'll be feeling the pressure, I am sure, as these two actually build up a little bit of a gap to the cars behind. Not much there, as we see Matt Daly getting past Will Harper, because it looks like Will Harper has had a bit of an issue there, as I see a few more cars getting past him, so he'll be on for a recovery drive for this first part of the triple header, as we see Rosie Hodgson getting past there, just getting it a little bit wrong. Oh no, that wasn't, that was Steve Knight there. Still Andrew Whitehead leading for the moment as they head through the Clark curve. This little train that we saw forming in turn 1, lap 1, carries on as we head on to lap 2 now, with Alan Matthews running his headlights on there. Just to make himself a little bit more obvious to the cars out in front. Wheels locking there for Greg Young. He doesn't want to do that too much. He's running the hard tyre just like Andrew Whitehead, so maybe the tyre not quite up to temperature, not quite in its working zone just yet, as we see lockups for Alan Matthews on those mediums as well. So he won't want to be doing that too much. He'll start to really suffer towards the end of the race. The gap between P1 and P2 now about half a second. Andrew Whitehead's keeping his cool. Seems to be not the case for Will Inglis and Alan Matthews there, as they get it just a little bit wrong on the exit of the Graham Hill Bend there and find themselves enjoying a little bit of rallycross as we head through Surtees now. They've lost out a little bit to the cars out in front, but not too much. They have soon got Matt Daly to contend with as he hunts his way, climbs his way through the field. Very fast driver, as we know from the previous year's running and some of the battles that we've enjoyed this year. See the cars hitting around about 200 kilometers an hour at the bottom of Pilgrim's Drop. So not the slowest things in the world, of course, not the modern race car that we are so accustomed to, as we see Andrew Whitehead got a little bit wrong in Sector 2. That allowed Greg Young to catch up a fair amount. He was really touching the rear bumper of that car, or should I say, I can actually say the gearbox in this car. Usually I'm used to saying catching up to the gearbox of, but these, of course, being the Alfa 75, they enjoy that transaxle. So I can say he's gaining on the gearbox of the car out in front. As we head towards the Clark curve, flame spitting on overrun, as we see Andrew Whitehead being very aggressive with the curb, trying to save as much time as he can. Of course, if he gets that even a little bit wrong, it'll spit the car out, and it'll spit him out without much mercy. These old school Alfa 75s are going to be near enough side by side as we head into the Paddock Hill Bend there, but it goes a little bit wrong for Greg Young there. Big lockup. He's very lucky to keep it facing forwards. He's now got Alan Matthews to contend with. Alan Matthews looking up the inside into Druids there. It's very brave of Alan Matthews there. Brilliant racing between these two, side by side, only inches separating them, but Alan Matthews has to concede in the end. Another lockup for Greg Young there. He's certainly feeling the pressure now, and they come together. They make contact through Graham Hill Bend there. That spins Alan Matthews wrong. Does it actually? No, it keeps Alan Matthews pointing in the right direction. It's Greg Young who has lost out big time there. What a shame. He was doing such a good job at the start of this race. He needs to rejoin as quickly as possible to try and salvage this race now. He's now down in P9. That'll be one that the stewards want to look up, I am sure. We saw some brilliant racing between those two. It was about as brave as you dare at this stage in the race, heading into Druids for Alan Matthews, but it all went a little bit wrong just a corner later. That promotes Will Inglis into P2, so his fortunes have been transformed as a result of that incident there. He's only half a second behind P1, but it looks like on exit the back end just stepped away from it a little bit. That puts Matt Daly in P2 now. He is now fighting Matt Daly to stay on the... Or rather, he's now fighting Alan Matthews to stay on the podium. Alan Matthews obviously got some very nice pace in this car on this circuit. He'll be trying to catch up to Will Inglis. Will Inglis, of course, not a slow driver by any stretch of the imagination, but all this battling has given Andrew Whitehead a little bit of breathing space, although Matt Daly behind is a purple Sector 1 and a personal best Sector 2 on this lap. Andrew Whitehead's best is a 142.6. Matt Daly's about half a second faster than that, and it's only going to get better on this lap. 141.5 on the previous lap for Matt Daly. That is the fastest lap of the race so far, so he's hunting down Andrew Whitehead. Andrew Whitehead obviously feeling the pressure through Paddock Hill Bend. They got it a little bit wrong, maybe a little bit too greedy with the throttle, maybe a little bit too late on the brakes, and he finds himself in the gravel. That allows Matt Daly to be within half a second of him this time, and I am sure he's going to have to work for this P1 now. Matt Daly will be feeling like Andrew Whitehead out in front is vulnerable, as will Andrew himself. And as we get ready to head through Surtees, is anyone's game for P1 heading down towards Pilgrim's Drop. Then Matt Daly has the slipstream. I don't believe it's too powerful in this car. Obviously, they have the aerodynamic properties of a brick. And they don't have the best gearing in the world for those longer straights, although, of course, you can change that in these cars. Only 3/10 separating these two now as they head through Westfield, or rather heading into Westfield now. As we see Andrew Whitehead again cutting up the track as much as he does, exploring those track limits, but it was Matt Daly who had the upper hand through that corner. He is once again encroaching upon Andrew Whitehead's space as they get ready to head through Stirling. Stirling's another really important part of the track. You want to get that exit absolutely perfect, otherwise you're suffering the ill effects of it through the entire way down Clearways, as Andrew Whitehead is now. They're going to be side by side heading through the Clark curve. Andrew Whitehead doing his best to defend, well, just about leaving enough room for Matt Daly, and he's able to keep P1 for the moment. Matt Daly's going to have to try again if he gets a good enough exit onto the Brabham Straight. He can possibly think about a move into Paddock Hill Bend. Squeezes Andrew as much as he dares. A little bit of a switch back there to take the outside line, although he ends up just following Andrew Whitehead through, and we get ready to head into Druids. Will he think about a move? Will he be feeling like the move is on from that far back? No, he doesn't. He gets ready to set himself up for the next corner now then. Thinking about his next move, although it looks like Andrew Whitehead had a little bit of a better exit through Druids this time around. As we are now at around about the halfway stage in this race. This race has absolutely flew by. Brilliant racing action so far. As we see the headlights still on Alan Matthews' car. I think Alan quite frequently leaves his headlights on. Must be a little bit of a good luck charm perhaps. We see the car skipping over the bumps through Surtees there. And no amazingly fast laps for the drivers in the top of the field for the moment. We will join some of the action lower down as we see there's only half a second separating Will Harper and Greg Young. Greg Young trying to climb his way back through the field. Rob Whitney there in P5 as well. Not too far away, so he will be involved in this battle for P6, P5, if you will. As we see Will Harper hugging that inside line there, wasn't able to carry that much speed. Greg Young saw his opportunity, is now going to be side by side as they head through Sheens, although Will Harper locking up is able to defend, but once again, they are side by side again, as I say again. As we head down into Stirling's now, a little bit of a switchback for Will Harper. I'm getting a bit of my head myself. I often do that at this circuit. Actually, we were just on the Derek Minter straight there. Now we are getting ready to head through Stirling's and down through Clearways, rather. Saying in that slipstream train there to enjoy as much of that top end as you can. As we see, Matt Daly, actually, I've missed the lead for the battle for the lead there. I apologise there. A little bit of a switchback through Paddock Hill Bend. Alan Matthews setting his personal best and the best lap of the race so far. Andrew Whitehead able to keep P1 for the moment from Matt Daly. Matt Daly felt like the move was on there, now sliding his way through the Graham Hill bend there. And the internet connection is just about holding up, which I am glad to see. We're having a couple of issues in quali, but it looks like we should be good from here on out as we head through 30s. Still around about half a second. Matt Daly has on a couple of occasions broken that half a second barrier, but hasn't been able to make the move stick in that yellow Alfa 75, although he is gaining heading down Pilgrim's Drop now, but so is Alan Matthews, actually. Alan Matthews is definitely in contention for this P1 if Matt and Andrew start battling each other. As we see, he's looking at a move up the inside, heading into Westfield now. It wasn't going to work from that far back, unfortunately, for Alan. Meanwhile, Greg Young has been able to get past Will Harper further down the field, but Matt Daly is putting as much pressure as he dares on Andrew out in front. These three are so close together, half a second separating them. The battle for the lead at this stage in the race, brilliant to see. As we head down clearways, they are going to be pretty much side by side, neck and neck, heading into the Clark curve. It is Andrew Whitehead who has the inside line, but will he be able to carry as much speed? Will he be able to box off Matt Daly? It looks like he can just about, can he? No. Matt Daly gets the better exit of the Clark curve and onto the Bradman straight. They are three wide heading into Paddock Hill. It looks like Matt Daly might have the upper hand here, but it is certainly not for the faint-hearted, this type of move. The order doesn't change that much. We see a little bit of a slide for Andrew Whitehead, though. That allows Matt Daly to edge out just a little bit as they head through. Drew, as they come together, they make contact. It wasn't too severe. There's no lasting damage from that one, but that allows Alan Matthews to gain and rejoin this battle once again. It's Matt Daly now leading the race as we head through the Graham Hill bend. Alan Matthews using the grass there to try and get past his rival in P2 there. Brilliant moves to see through Sector 1 there. Matt Daly now enjoying about half a second lead so far. That was a pure bravery. Brilliant racing from all three drivers there on the podium so far. And let's hope that this carries on. I am sure it will as we enter the final 10 minutes of this race now. Andrew Whitehead's trying to get back past Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews currently enjoying P2 after the end of that little battle there. As we see, Alan Matthews very aggressive on the exit of Hawthorne there. He's hanging his car about as we head into Westfield now. And that is certainly him wringing that everything out of that car that he can as we head down towards Sterling's now. And it looks like Andrew Whitehead is gaining on Alan Matthews just a little bit, perhaps enjoying that slipstream. He closes in ever so slightly. The gap between P2 and P3 is a little bit smaller than it is to P1. But it looks like it's a little bit too far back on this occasion. We won't be enjoying a battle three wide into the Paddock Hill bend as we did last time round. What a shame. Yeah, Alan's got a very interesting driving style. It's great to watch, actually. Did they make contact there? But whatever happened, Andrew Whitehead, what a shame. His race has really turned on its head in the previous lap. He's able to carry on in P3. I was worried he's going to find himself in the wall if he wasn't careful there. But that brings Barry Clayton into contention. Actually, Barry Clayton has been enjoying a very quiet race in P4. That battling has brought the top three a little bit closer in the eye line of Barry Clayton. And that mistake, or that possible contact, I'm not quite sure what happened there between Alan and Andrew, if anything did happen, has brought Andrew into the jaws of Barry. Now, Barry possibly thinking about a spot on the podium. We saw he had some very nice pace in qualifying. All three drivers out in front running that medium tyre. I know Andrew's running the hard tyre, actually, so maybe he's been doing a very good job in that case to keep such a pace running that harder compound of tyre, although we could start to see it come into its own as we head into the later stages of this race. Matt Daly has been able to build up a little bit of a gap to Alan Matthews. We saw Alan Matthews, very interesting driving style with this car, really ringing its neck in, sliding it through as many corners as he can to try and eke out as many many tenths or hundredths as he can. Certainly a riskier style. And it's one that you probably want to lose if you're in the middle of a heated battle, as he did on so many occasions here in this race so far. There's just under a second separating Will Inglis and Rob Whitney. As we see, Will Inglis actually getting a big lockup there. He hasn't looked entirely comfortable in this car, it must be said. He's lost about another second there, currently running P7, but it is Currently, Guy Swarbrick running or leading the AM race. He's one of only 3 AM competitors at the moment in this race, as we see Will Harper getting past him there, now in P8. It looks like I'll have to confirm that with him, actually. I'm sure he'll message me afterwards, so I apologise for not knowing this ahead of time, Rob, but I believe you have now been promoted into the Pro category, so well done to you for that, and very well deserved in this Touring Car Championship. You are now running in the Pro category, according to my timing screen there. So he's currently running P6 and doing a very nice job. Should be a nice haul of points there, but it is Matt Daly currently leading this race from Alan Matthews. That gap has got just a little bit wider now just over a second as we head into the final 5 minutes of this race. See, Guy Swarbrick is still within touching distance of Will Harper as they head through Surtees. He may be able to get a move done. He can always force a mistake at this stage in the race. We've seen so many times in this championship just how quickly a race can become unravelled, as it was slightly for Andrew Whitehead just a few laps ago. He's still only 6 seconds away from the lead, but he held on to that lead for so long. What a shame for him to see that race become unwound like that. Matt Daly still struggling, well not struggling, but still feeling the pressure just a little bit from Alan Matthews behind there. Start to see the lap times not quite as rapid as they were earlier on. Of course, Matt Daly's best being a 141.5 there. That would have done him very nicely in quali, actually. And that was with a much higher fuel load. Of course, the fuel load's getting lighter now, but the tyres are also starting to drop off simultaneously. Yeah, and it looks like Matt Daly is actually one of the fastest cars on track at the moment. He is, well, not in terms of lap time, but in terms of outright speed down Pilgrim's Drop. He is 119 miles an hour through the speed trap, and he's rivaled in that only by the likes of Greg Young. So yeah, ever so slight differences in the setup. The Andrew Whitehead actually looks like he's running quite an aggressive setup, maybe to counterbalance those hard tyres that he's running. Only hitting about 117 miles an hour in Pilgrim's Drop. It doesn't seem like it's that big of a difference, but those couple of miles an hour definitely count heading into an overtaking zone like that. And the gap is still staying at about that 1.5 second delta for the moment, as we start to see the drivers find their own groove, find their own rhythm towards the end of the race, find that bit of the track that they're comfortable occupying, running at the pace that they feel like they can. Of course, the last time we held an endurance race was here at Brands, actually. Of course, we had a couple of technical issues to start the race with, but it was celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Alfa Endurance Series car. The Screaming V12s, they were brilliant. But that type of race is all about finding a pace, finding a rhythm that you're comfortable with, and that is what these drivers are doing at the moment. The gap has decreased ever so slightly as we start another lap. There's only a few laps to go in this race, race one of this triple header. And Alan Matthews is actually a couple of tenths faster than Matt Daly on this occasion, on that time round. They've actually posted pretty much an identical best lap earlier in the race as well. So Alan certainly has the pace to fight for these wins. And Matt Daly shouldn't be forgetting that as we head into the very final stages of this race now. Maybe he can push towards the top end of this grid. He's really enjoying pushing those track limits as far as he dares. They're going on off the tarmac, over the curb and onto the grass there. He's must be finding time, because he's only just under a second behind Matt Daly as we head into Sector 2 and into that all-important Pilgrim's Drop, getting himself ready for Hawthorne. He'll be enjoying a little bit of that slipstream, but it won't be the most effective in these cars. Now about 7 tenths separating them. That extends ever so slightly as we head into Westfield. Now, we've seen Alan's very aggressive heading into Westfield. He usually tends to kick the back end out there. Maybe the tyres prohibiting him from doing it at this stage in the race. Well, it looks like Andrew Whitehead's actually got a nice bit of pace behind him this time around. He set a personal best Sector 1, so maybe we're starting to see those hards start to show themselves. Of course, a bit too little too late for Andrew, unfortunately. I'm sure he'll still be happy with a podium, but it's not the race win that he knows that he could have potentially had as they head down clearways now, the race leaders, and through the Clark curve. Seeing the car leaning ever so slightly as they put a lot of load through the front suspension. One of the highest speed corners on the track. In fact, In fact, the next coming corner here, Paddock Hill, again, probably the second fastest corner on the track there, putting a hell of a lot of a load through the car there, and it looks like Will Inglis has had a bit of an impact with something according to the timing system. Not quite sure what that was. He's been able to carry on, although he is under pressure from Guy Strawbrick at this stage in the race. And this will be the penultimate lap of the race. And it is Alan Matthews who's gaining on Matt Daly, carrying so much more pace through Graham Hill Bend. He is setting himself up, potentially looking at a move through Surtees, although it's not a very common overtaking spot in these cars. He's less than half a second behind now, and he will be possibly thinking about a move into braking or under braking into Hawthorne now. The move is definitely on from this far back, because he's not far back at all. They're going to be near enough side by side heading into Hawthorne. He's going to have to take the outside line if he can get that move done. It doesn't look like he can, though. He's a little bit too far back for his liking, I am sure. And they're going to head into Westfield now, and he's going to try and put that pressure on. Follows him through that inside line there, and getting ready to head into Stirling now. They're once again near enough side by side, but he will be on that outside line again. In fact, no, he's got Sheens to contend with first. And they are neck and neck heading into Stirling's now, and it will still be Matt Daly out in front, but for how long? That is the all-important question as we head down clearways now. Alan Matthews has got that slipstream once again. We've seen you can get a move done into Clark Curve, but it's not a very typical overtaking spot. It can quite quickly go wrong when you're carrying that much speed. See the back end of Alan Matthews' car just getting a little bit unhappy at such a high speed. He's wringing the neck out of that car, it must be said, as we head into Paddock Hill. We've seen some very brave moves from these two drivers here. A little bit of a lock-up that won't be helping him there, as Andrew Whitehead sets his best lap there at 142.2 for Andrew on those hard tyres. And we're now on the final lap of this race, heading through Druids now with the leaders. And it is Matt Daly still in P1 for the moment, but we've seen Alan Matthews can gain a substantial amount of time through the Graham Hill Bend there, and it isn't to be on this occasion, though. It looks to be that Matt Daly is trying to bring home that P1 as quickly as he can, though. That is not the type of worry you want at this stage in the race if you're leading. And we stay at about half a second distance as we head down the Pilgrim's Drop and into Hawthorne now. Those lights shining on Alan Matthews' car as if to say, get out of my way, I want this win. Taking a much tighter line through Hawthorne and getting ready to head into Westfield. He sees the back end of that car sliding out again. He gains on Matt Daly this time. But will it be enough as he sets himself up for Sheens and that all-important drive down Clearways? He is so close. These cars are so brilliant to watch. And he thinks about a move down the inside. That was a bit too far back, though, unfortunately. Alan, that might have been your final chance of the race. He's lost about half a second in that attempt there. And that could see Matt Daly taking the win, unless anything goes wrong through the final corner. He had to fight for it from so far back on the grid. But it is Matt Daly who, after such a long battle, takes P1 and a very hard-fought P2 for Alan Matthews as well. Locking up as they head on to their parade lap. Commiserations to Andrew Whitehead after leading for so long. He takes home P3 with glowing front brake discs. Only 5 seconds behind in the end after that mistake that he had on the exit of Paddock Hill. It is a very hard-fought podium there for all drivers involved. As we see Barry Clayton and Greg Young on the gravel just a little bit. Those brakes, I am sure, screaming at the end of this race. But so many drivers finishing on the lead lap. Very nice racing from everyone tonight. Commiserations as well to Greg Young. He was in the battle for the lead of the race, and it all went wrong so early on. Rob Whitney finishing P6, Will Harper coming home P7, and Will Inglis heading P8 as Guy Strawberry crosses line P9, and Steve Knight is a little bit further back there, heading down Clearways, and soon to be joining him is Rosie Hodson in P11. But that was a brilliant start to the racing action here at Brands Hatch there. A very hard-fought win for Matt Daly. That'll be helping him hugely in the championship standings. He's missed a couple of rounds this year, or missed qualifying, so he's definitely had to fight for all of his podiums so far this year. But it certainly showed what he is made of. and we'll be joining you in just a couple of moments for part 2 of this triple header, as we see Alan Matthews getting a rather large slide on through the exit of Sterling's. Yes, we'll be joining you in just a moment for part 2 of this triple header. Don't go anywhere. I'll see you in just a second. and welcome back to the action here at Brands Hatch. It is less than 20 seconds to go until lights out as we are on for our half reverse grid race for part 2 of this weekend. We hear the revs rising, we see people enjoying a bit of a headlight flashing match as well as they were getting ready to set off. 6 red lights on the gantry. And we are away. Greg Young once again getting a fairly nice launch, although it looks like Barry Clayton got a far better one, actually. Allowing a little bit of slip on the back end seems to be the key to getting a fast launch. He wasn't able to get past him now. In fact, he has a little bit of a battle with Andrew Whitehead as they head through the paddock hill bend. It is Greg Young still in the lead. Then he'll be feeling much more happy with the way this race has started than the previous one, I am sure, so far. Barry Clayton losing out a little bit through Druids. He's now side by side with Matt Daly as we head through Sterling's, and actually Alan Matthews is behind Matt Daly heading through Sterling's. This is a familiar sight for us and for both of those drivers, I am sure. And these two certainly know how to battle each other after the previous race. It'll be interesting to see how they climb through the field together. It is Greg Young still in P1 with Andrew Whitehead close behind, about half a second separating them. This is Andrew's chance to get that victory that he so sorely missed out on. Of course, there is a reason as to why I felt like the race was going so fast, because of course it's only a 20-minute race in the triple header. As we see Greg Young cutting the grass just a little bit, saving the groundskeepers a little bit of time there. A little bit of work, and there's a little bit of a train heading through the track now. Everyone has had a very nice lap on, only 7 seconds separating the entire field. Andrew Whitehead is getting very close indeed, heading through Sterling's. As we had, I was saying Sterling's before, that was Graham Hill Bend, of course. And in fact, that has gone very nicely indeed, under braking into the clock curve for Andrew Whitehead. He's had to take the outside line, though, so not entirely having the upper hand on this occasion, and has allowed Barry Clayton and Matt Daly to catch up big time as we head down the Brabham Straight. It is going to be too wide through Paddock Hill, potentially. It looks like not quite to be, of course. Plenty of battling going on through Paddock Hill, though. There's going to be 4 very close together cars heading through Druids now. A little bit of a lock-up from Greg Young. And Barry Clayton opting for that wider line there. He's now in the jaws of Alan Matthews as we head through Graham Hill corner, or the Graham Hill bend. There's a bit of a happy hunting ground for Alan Matthews there. You saw him gain quite a fair amount of time on Matt Daly in the previous race, in fact using the grass quite frequently to do so. And we can see Andrew Whitehead is just on the gearbox of that Greg Young out in front as we head down the Pilgrim's Drop. He's looking to hang the car around the outside. If he's a bit brave under braking, he might be able to make the move stick, although he's a little bit too far back. Not quite as fast as we've seen them get up to in race 1 just yet, and Barry Clayton on exit there, a little bit too brave, carrying just a bit too much speed there, and has had to use the grass. Luckily able to carry on without losing out too much time, although Alan Matthews is now pretty much neck and neck with him as we head through Sheens, and in fact gets ahead of him through that corner there, and is now running P4, so it's been a fairly nice start to the race for Alan Matthews. And in fact, Barry Clayton now losing out to Will Harper as well, and losing out to Will Inglis for his troubles as well. So Sector 2 not gone the way that Barry Clayton would have wanted. He's dropped down the order by a magnitude of 3 or 4 cars there. What a shame. We saw he has an immense amount of pace in this car on this circuit, but it just wasn't to be, although we could be on for a battle 3 wide heading through the Paddock Hill Bend now. Who is going to be bravest? It looks like Barry Clayton tucks in just at the end there. That was probably a sensible option at this stage in the race, and it looks like Rob Whitney is, or not Rob Whitney, Andrew Whitehead is under pressure from Greg Young, although rather Andrew Whitehead's been able to overtake Greg Young through Druids there. A textbook move, that nice switchback. Brilliant bit of driving from Andrew there to get that move done. Matt Daly now putting pressure on Greg Young this time around as we head through Surtees. And in fact, Greg Young is still quite close to Andrew, actually, so P1 definitely not secure for Andrew as we head down the Pilgrim's Drop now. Just about half a second separating the top 3 on the grid as we head through Westfield. Matt Daly looking at a move around the outside when he's off track already, trying to put as much pressure as he dares on Greg Young in front. Greg Young thinking about getting that P1 back from Andrew Whitehead, although he may have to focus his attention elsewhere now and secure that P2 on the podium if he can, or maybe think about his later race. He is on the hard tyres, of course, the others running the mediums, so he may want to sacrifice this P2, as it looks like he is doing. They are side by side heading through the Clark curve. He may want to sacrifice P2 just for the time being and try and claw it back in the later stages of this race. It was at around this point in the previous race that it all went a bit wrong for him, and he ended up dropping back down the order. That hasn't happened this time, so we can see if this alternate strategy that he is running pays dividends. Because it is worthy to note, actually, that Rob Whitney did a very nice job in the previous race, getting those softs to last as long as they did. Ended up finishing P6. He'll be trying to use that advantage, that grip advantage that he has at the moment, to push his way back up towards that kind of result, I am sure. Still only a second separating Matt Daly and Andrew Whitehead. Matt Daly having to... or Matt Daly, of course, enjoying P2 at the moment. Greg Young conceding that position down the Brabham Straight. As we see them heading through the Pilgrims Drop there. Huge dive. I'd love to know what that feels like from inside the car. Brands in the 75 isn't one that I've been able to try out on the sim yet myself. It's definitely on the to-do list, though. You see, the cars look so happy to rotate. One of my favourite things about these Alfa 75s is they just look so dynamic heading through some of these corners. When the drivers really push them, you can see them kind of twisting on the kind of like the central axis, almost like a single-seater, if you will. Of course, that weight distribution being fairly good in these cars. Yeah, they are definitely a fun one to watch heading around the circuit. Even by themselves in isolation, they look, it's certainly an action-packed sight. But now that the fuel loads are getting just a little bit lighter, and those tyres are in their working window for the time being, everyone's starting to set some very competitive lap times. Matt Daly currently fastest of the entire... Oh no, pardon me, it is Alan Matthews fastest of the entire race so far, just like we saw in the previous race. He is currently on a 141.2, and Matt Daly and Andrew Whitehead are building a little bit of a gap to those cars behind, involved in their own little battle there. Alan Matthews, as I've mentioned before, happy hunting ground for him. The Graham Hill Bend. He's gaining a little bit on Greg Young on this time round, as they head through Surtees now and get ready to set themselves up for another harsh braking zone that is Hawthorne Bend. Very easy to remember all of the corner names here, actually, of course. So many of them named after very important and very well-respected British racing drivers. That gap to P1 building just a little bit for Matt Daly now. Now that Andrew Whitehead has a little bit of clean air, a little bit less pressure on him, maybe we can see his true potential. Maybe we didn't quite see it in race 1 as we slowly approach the halfway stage of this race. As we see, Barry Clayton gets past Will Harper. A few other cars are likely to get past Will Harper as well. He gets it a little bit wrong through Sterling's there. That's not where you want to drop the car. You're suffering the consequences of any little mistakes through Sterling's throughout the entirety of Sector 3, all the way down clearways, especially in cars that aren't the most powerful in the world. There's only a few tenths separating Greg Young and Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews moves to the outside line there, thinking about a move under braking. It would have been brave. We've seen Alan Matthews likes a brave move through Druids before. Wasn't quite to be this time around, though. And it is the top end of the grid that all of the racing is happening at the moment. We should see the drivers further down starting to get a little bit comfortable in their own space on track. Still very close together, though, much closer than we saw in race 1, which is unusual for a reverse grid race, actually. Of course, not entirely uncommon to see a lap 1 incident or an early race incident in a reverse grid race, but everyone being very well behaved so far. In fact, everyone's been very well behaved throughout the year so far. Some brilliant standards of racing in this championship, and Andrew Whitehead is on for another fast lap here. He's got 2 personal best sectors so far on this lap. He might be using this as an opportunity, burning up what little left he has in those medium tyres. Well, I say not what little left, I'm sure there's still a bit left in there for the next few minutes, but starting to take advantage of the last bit of grip in these tyres to try and build a gap to Matt Daly behind. Although I say that as we head through the clock curve, Matt Daly has gained ever so slightly on Andrew Whitehead as they head through the Paddock Hill Bend now. That sweeping downhill right-hander, it puts the chassis of the car through its paces, it must be said. Of course, you've got so many different forces working on the car and the tyres, and it really is quite a challenge for the drivers, and they are doing a brilliant job through it so far. So that gap that was approaching about 1.5 seconds, now down to about 1 second once again. As we see Matt Daly testing the track limits as much as possible.